let's start our descent into boater bankruptcy and see what we got with this new Garmin Fusion system. We've got our Apollo 770 radio, we got our Fusion amp, we've got a 10-inch LED subwoofer, we have our Signature Series 3i tower speakers, we have 8.8-inch speakers that are going to go in the back, and we have 7.7-inch speakers that are going to go underneath the dashboard. It's all going to be powered through an 8-channel amp. We've got all sorts of wires and cables that have got to be hooked up. Up on top there, we've got speaker wire, 12 gauge and 16 gauge. And the big box in the very back is our LED wire. And then all this is going to be networked into the two Garmin 8600 multifunction displays in the front there. So I've watched a lot of videos on this. I'm not a professional audio-visual guy. I watched a lot on it. I spent a bunch of time on the phone with Garmin, and if that guy isn't drinking heavily at this point, God bless him. But I think I got the wiring figured out on this, and I'm going to do quite a bit on how to wire everything together, because all the videos that I've watched this far, everybody just said, okay, hook up the wires. And it's like, well, I can drill a hole in the boat. Don't like to, but I can do it. It was the wiring that confused me. So I'm going to go through the wiring more in depth than I've seen on other videos, and hopefully that part helps people out. So let's go ahead and get started, and we'll get it put together. Okay, we're going to go through some quick unboxing here to kind of start getting everything lined up. This is our 7.7-inch LED speakers. These are going to go at the back of the boat. Have our instructions. These are the covers. There's the action right there. There's the black covers. Go ahead and open one. And got a couple connections in the back. Another speaker, mounting screws, so there's two plugs. This is if you're just going to use blade fuses. This is going to be your speaker connection that goes into there, and then this is going to be your 6-pin for your LEDs, plugs in there. That's basically all that's in there. Okay, wait. The 7.7s are going on the bow of the boat under the dashboard. It's the 8.8s that are going to go underneath or on the back of the boat. So the 7.7s go on the front. The 8.8s are going on the back. So we have our instructions. Speakers. Imagine this will be the exact same, but bigger as the other ones. And on the back, have our two blade fuses, our hook up there, and our 6-point. We have our plugs for our speaker wires, plugs for the LED lighting. Okay, here's the subwoofer, 10-inch LED subwoofer. Have our template, our instructions, him. There's the beast. Just like that. And then on the back, you have your point for your 6 LED lights, your 2 speaker wires, and then your blade fuses right there, or blade connectors. Then you have your 2 plugs, one for your speaker wire, and one for your LED lights. Okay, and looking in reverse, here's our LED controller. You have plugs on the back. There's plugs in here. There we go. Okay, so we have our NMEA 2000 backbone cable. Got a couple mounting screws and instructions. And then going to assume this is your power wire. And then we have 3 channels to hook into. A really short NMEA 2000 cable goes right there. So NMEA 2000, power, and 3 channels. That's pretty basic and simple. This is our LED light controller. Okay. Warning. Amp with the hookups in the back. Pretty hefty sucker. Zone 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's where our power hooks up. Couple caps and screws for mounting. There's our power block. That's our bridge connection for our subwoofer. And then this is where you hook up all your speaker wires. And a couple more bridge connections. So if you want to do 4 subwoofers, they send 4 connectors, or you can do 4 regular speakers. Oh, and then we have our mounting plate. Ready. Okay, and the last piece is the radio. Cool looking in the front. And you have, this is going to be your power and your output speakers. This is going to be your other channels. Digital audio in, USB, ground, oh, your XM tuner, Ethernet, NMEA 2000, and your AM/FM antenna. And this big monstrosity, here's your sun cover. Okay, here's your main wiring. There's your gasket for your dashboard. Your main wiring harness, NMEA 2000 cable. We have 2 channel hookups. And these 2 are your end caps. And some mounting screws. Alright, let me move some stuff around and we'll get into wiring. Alright, fair warning, I am not an AV guy. This is everything I've learned from watching a bunch of videos. I talked to tech support at Garmin. They are awesome if you have any questions. Refer to them. So if I screw this up, I'm sure the collective knowledge of the internet will correct me, but this is the basic system. Amps are kind of difficult because there's so much into them. Fusion has made it so that basically anybody can do it without having to program it, tune it, and everything else. As long as you have their whole system, it's all matched up together. So we have our amp, radio. Up here we have our speaker that's going on the wake tower. Okay, we have our Garmin 10-inch subwoofer and one of the 7.7 speakers, and they're the same as the 8, so it'll be easy to... Alright, you kind of got a plan before you start ordering where everything's going to go, because you have to have all of the cables and stuff that are the right length to get your system all together all at once. So let's start with the 770 radio. Got a bunch of plugs back here, and this is all pretty simple once you understand the basics of the wiring part. So one of the things that it took me a minute to get my head around. So in your main wiring harness, you're going to have left zone speaker 1. It's going to be your trigger. Your blue wire is going to be amplifier on. Your ignition wire. Your auto mute. Speaker, ground for the system. And so you're going to have, we're missing one, 2, 3, what's the right one? These 4 speakers. And this is where I think it gets confusing, and that's just based upon the comment section and what my questions were. So you have your 4 speakers, right? Left, right, front, and back. So these are great if you're not going to use an amplifier. So if you're just using the radio, and there's a couple situations for that. One, if you're not using an amp at all, and you just want a basic system that you can run through your chart plotters or whatever you want, and your good system, and you're just going to hook up speakers, that's what these are for. The other thing is, even if you are running an amp, if you have one of those boats that has the little bed underneath your bow, and you don't want amplified music in there, you just want quieter music, that's what these are going to be for. This has a 75 watt amplifier in it already. So, but these do not go to your amplifier. If you're hell-bent on hooking these to an amplifier, for some reason, you can get what's called a line output converter. And you can hook these up to there, and then they will give you the RCA jacks to go into here. And if you want to go down a rabbit hole of line output converters and spend some time looking at that, it's actually pretty interesting. But I'm not an AV guy. My basic understanding is, because these go through an amp, you come into here and you can't have amped power going into your amp. You know, my thought was, well, if it's amped and it goes into here and then it gets more amped, then that's better, right? Apparently it doesn't work that way. So on my system, these aren't going to be used. We will be using the rest of the wires, and that'll get plugged in down there. So there are amps made that have a line output converter installed in the amp, so you can just hook these speaker wires up, then it converts it inside the amp to the signal it wants. But that's not the Fusion one. So these ones are just going to get capped for what I'm doing, but they are there for a bunch of different purposes. So this is set up to do a bunch of different things. And if you've got a big boat, you know, this may not be enough for you at all. So that's what the first one does. So then you have two of these that plug in on the top here. And so you're going to go, this has zones. You have zone 1, and then you have a zone, then you have your zone 1 subwoofer out. So that's one zone. Then you have your zone 2 subwoofer out in your zone 2, and then you have auxiliary in. We'll come up to that in just a second. Then it's going to duplicate here, except you're going to have auxiliary 2 in, and you're going to have zone 3 and zone 4. So the way I'm going to set my system up is I'm going to go for my command unit. Zone 1 is going to be the speakers on the back of the boat and the subwoofer. Zone 3 will be my wake tower speakers, and then zone 4 will be the little speakers underneath the dashboard. So what you'll do, and this is why you kind of have to plan everything, you have to know where your radio is going to be and your amp, because you have to order it. These are the Fusion cables, and they have all sorts of different lengths. But you get your RCA cables, and that's going to go from here to here. So since I'll be using 3 zones for speakers, I needed 3 of these with 2 channels on each end. And then I ordered one that has just 1 channel, and that will go into our zone 2 subwoofer out into there, and then we'll use our bridge that goes over that, and then you plug it in there, and then our speaker wires go here. So that's how that works. And then you have your power connections that plug in there, and I've got some Rockville 4-gauge wire to do that. Okay, so that gets us from here to our amp. Then you have all of your little channel outputs. Garmin has 2 different kinds of wire. They have 16 gauge and they have 12. If you're running to your subwoofer, Garmin wants 12. All your other speakers can use 16, but they say if you're going a long distance, use 12. So to my 7.7 inch speakers and my 8.8 inch speakers, these are going to get 16 gauge wires. To my wake tower, they're going to get 12 gauge because it's a little bit further run. I think they say over 25 foot. I'm not 25 foot, but just going up there, I want clear path. We've gone from here to here, and now we're going from the speakers here to the speakers using these and this, and then we're going to be connecting the LED lights through our Spectra light controller. So on this you have 3 zones. This one's your power, So you have power, ground, and ignition, and your NMEA 2000. And then you have 3 zones. And so our subwoofer is going to be connected to the 8.8 zone. And then our 7.7 speakers are going to be a different zone. And the wake tower speakers will be a 3rd zone. So that'll give us our 3 zones. And that'll all be connected together. And then you can get a remote for this, but I'm going to run mine through the chart plotter or my Active Captain app. And that should get us basically wired up for our speakers. But I did say that we were going to come back to our audio in. And this is probably not something that a lot of people ever use, but I am going to. There's a couple reasons you'd use your auxiliary in. If you want to hook up a CD player or something, and you want to listen to it through here, or a DVD player, then this is what you would use, is your auxiliary in. And I am going to. So if you have a Garmin series 8600 series chart plotter, I have 2. I have a 12-inch and a 10-inch. The 10-inch sits at the helm. The 12-inch sits at the back of the boat where I fish. Because Garmin does everything with their equipment, you can get yourself a small DVD player. You can get a Roku, you can get your Xbox, anything you want. And Garmin has a HDMI cable that connects to their HDMI in port. And you can run your DVD player, your Xbox, whatever you want, into your 8600 series chart plotter, and that will give you your visual. But then you need sound. So you get, on some it's going to say audio, other ones it's going to say NMEA 0183, but you get your RCA plug from Garmin. That'll plug into there. Now you have an RCA plug and someplace color coded, red to red, white to white. Now you have auxiliary in. You can watch your DVD here, play it through your sound system, or if you're just using your if you have a cabin or something, you don't want to install extra speakers, so you've got the speaker wires from here hooked up in your cabin or wherever your sleeper berth is, where it's not, really loud. You can put this on, put in a DVD, turn one zone down low, and you can watch this on your TV and still play the music through your system. Or you can connect it directly, if you have it, from here into your audio output or audio input. So that is going to be how my system is set up. And if I'm wrong, please tell me. For this portion of the install, we have our Fusion Signature Series Wake Tower speakers. Over here we have our mounts, 12 gauge Garmin speaker wire, and our Garmin LED wire. So let's open up the box and see what's inside. Okay, so the first thing we have is our instructions. And we have our Mighty Tower speakers. That's the LED wires. We've got the everything wires. We'll see. All right, so we have 2, 4, 6, and 8 wires. Okay, so the black, or the white, and the black and white are your speaker wires. The 6 other wires are your LED wires, and your LED wires will connect to your LED cabling. Okay, this is our universal swivel mount system. Got your instructions. Our brackets. And then we have different size inserts for different size tubing. Sets in, that's pretty small. Pops out. And then that going to bolt right on there, and then the wire will go through the middle. So we'll have to have that all set up before we do the wiring. The question is there bolts right there? So there's the bolts to hook everything up. So let's go drill a couple holes and see what hell we can cause. Oh, and it comes with grommets. I've drilled a hole there, and I've drilled a hole up here through my wake tower, and we're going to run the cables from up on top down through here to make our connection, and then we'll hook everything up. Okay, so we have our bracket. There's a lock screw, and then you can see in here there's a stop so that it can't go all the way around and twist up your wires. So that'll be towards the front of the boat, and your speaker will either sit like this or like this, and you can twist your speakers, or you can get the fixed mount ones. We'll leave that locked for now. Speaker cable runs through this way. Nope. Speaker cable runs through this way. Sets on there. Take our screws. So one of the things I have to consider is what's going to be in the way when I get this all done. These sit in between these two bars. These are pole holders for fishing. So I'm going to have to come out a little bit. I was hoping to get closer in, but I'm going to come to here for my mounting, and then with the swivel bracket I'll be able to turn them towards the back of the boat. There are lots of different sizes of spacers in there. This pipe is about 2 1/4, and boy, that is almost like it was made for it. Just about perfect. Now, if one of the brackets off, this goes towards the front of the boat. So that is going to sit just like that. Okay, this requires a 1/2-inch hole. We're just going to take this small drill bit and mark right in the middle. What are the chances? Okay, I just spent the last hour trying to feed this cable through, and the amount of terror that went through me when I realized that the wire would only go from here along here down to here and stop made me think, oh no, what if I just drilled a hole in my tube and I can't feed the wire through it? So I went to the bottom and fed the wire up, and it would go way past this. So I came back over here and tried feeding it through. And then I thought, well, what if this tube goes through all the way and it's stopping it from going down? But then why would it come up? And I thought, well, I wonder if it's cut in a way that the wire's coming up here, coming here, and going into the front one up here. And I'm like, oh, I am so in big trouble. But I worked on it and worked on it and worked on it, and I was able to finally, it must go in halfway or something, because it finally, at one point, I was twisting and turning, and it finally went past that, came out the bottom. You can see that wire down there. And I was able to get it in, then discovered another problem. So Garmin recommends at least 16 gauge speaker wire for this, and I thought these are going far enough, I'll use 12. And then when you go to put this in, it is way too tight. Even without that wire there, getting that in is almost impossible. So I hooked this baling wire up and pulled this back through, and I'm just going to set this down in a little bit so I can get it back out. So I'm just going to set this down in a little bit, and I'm going to drill this hole out just a little more. So Garmin's wire on their speaker is one wire, and I can't find anywhere where Garmin sells speaker wire and LED wire in one combination. The LED wire just comes like this with the 6 LED wires in it. That's what we're going to do, but at least I didn't drill a hole for nothing. But this was custom made 19 years ago, and even if could somehow find the guy that did it, I don't know if he'd even remember how he did it. So luckily I was able to make this work. I am sure that the aggregate knowledge of the YouTube world has a better way of doing this than me. Basically, I just fought it and fought it and fought it. Tried going this way, tried coming down. Finally got it to come down. I couldn't go up because making that corner through that little hole was almost impossible. It was easier to come down straight, just straight through there. So we're going to wire this up and take what we learned on the starboard side, apply it to the port side, and get her done. So we have our wake tower mounted back up. We have the cables coming from where the radio is going to be up into here. And then our LED wire and our speaker wire, I put this black heat shrink on. Now when we connect all these, if we were to do it all in one spot, you'd have butt connectors that are like 4 inches thick, and we've only got a 9/16 hole. So we're going to do a staggered connection on all of these wires. And then I put some heat shrink here, made sure I put my butt connector, my mount, and my adapter for my wake tower all on before we put the wires together, because once they're connected, you're not going to be able to get anything on. So I started connecting all the butt connectors, and I went red to red, blue to blue, green to green, and yellow to yellow. And that left me with 2 more wires here. And then we have this blue and this black coming from the speaker. And then these 2 white wires are speaker wires. So that got me thinking, well, which one of these 2 does this hook up to? So I would think those 2 colors are the same, and then that's got black in it, so black enough, right? And I got to thinking, well, what color are the cables for the light controller? And this is the plug for the light controller, and so you got blue, yellow, red, and black. So we're kind of matching up a little bit here, but not quite. So one of the things that you need to take note of is this tag tells you what type of LEDs light up. Like the black and yellow one does warm white LEDs, and the dark blue is LED power. And then you get the instructions, and you look at the instructions, and it tells you what the wires coming off of the speaker do. Directions say right here, the directions say you should follow the instructions provided with the wireless remote controller. Okay, so basically what the instructions say is connect the wires up, but it doesn't tell you how. So I'm going to connect this up, make note of where all the wires are connected to what, and then call Garmin tomorrow. The only thing it is really clear on is the speaker wire, white and white with a black spot, positive, negative. And then on the Garmin wire, there it says Fusion, speaker cable marine, and it says positive on it. Got the speaker wires connected, positive and white is positive, and black and white is ground. We have yellow to yellow, red to red, blue to blue, green to green and black, turquoise to kind of turquoise or kind of green, and black to light blue and black. Alright, it's getting late. I did get both speakers mounted, all the wires, and bolted down. So, thought I'd get further today, but it is what it is. Alright. We have our speakers mounted up. It's been a couple days because I've been at work. So, the question was the wiring didn't match up. So, let's see. Okay, this is the wiring that came with the Spectra light controller, and this came off of one of the speakers. And the wires, if you look at them this way, they look a little bit different. But in reality, if you start twisting them, they are. So I called Garmin, and basically on these ones, it has to be pin 1 to pin 1, pin 2 to pin 2, pin 3 to pin 3. That's pretty easy. The problem was with the tower speakers, the wires didn't match up with the cable, the LED cable that you can buy from Garmin. And so I called Garmin tech support and I said, this doesn't make any sense. And the guy was really friendly and he explained it all to me. So you got on the tower speakers, you have the 2 white wires, and we knew those went to the speakers because the instructions actually said that. But the rest of the wires are a little bit different. And so on the speakers, the black wire is your positive wire and your red wire is your negative wire. But on the Spectra light control, the dark blue wire is your positive wire and the red is still your negative. So that's a little bit of a curveball. So, but when you wire it, it doesn't matter. This is the Spectra one. It's the dark blue. And it even says on the label, LED power positive and red is negative. Well, it doesn't say, but it does say that the LED power is dark blue. So, the way it wires up is kind of like I did, but it was a little bit different. It was kind of the same. So your dark blue wire is your power and red is negative. But to wire it, you go red to red, yellow to yellow, then you find your dark green, and that goes to the green wire. So they don't call it, I called it green and turquoise. They call it dark green and light green. So your dark green goes to your straight green wire. Your black wire on the speaker goes to the blue wire on your electric controller. And then your what they call light green goes to the what they call light green, but it looked turquoise. And then the light blue and black wire on the controller goes to the straight blue one on the controller. So the blue and the dark blue, these two, wait, no, where is it? The dark blue and the light blue and black. Okay, these are the two that I kind of got backwards. because on the controller, or on the speaker, the one that was straight blue, I hooked up to the blue wire, and the one that was light blue and black, I hooked up to the black wire. And so on the other end, when I hook them up to here, I'm going to have to kind of, you know, reverse them, so to speak, but just make sure I hook them up right. But it's a little confusing how they did it, but that's because those are series iSpeaker or signature series speakers. They don't, as of January 2025, they don't have a Apollo series tower. And one of the reasons, they're going to these plugs, and so they're either going to have an 8-pin plug or go 2 plugs. And on the speakers, they have 2 plugs. But if you go 2 plugs on the tower speakers, then you've got to put 2 holes in your thing, or do what I did. It's really thick. So my guess is that's what they're waiting on us to figure out how they're going to do that. But anyways, that's the wiring conversion, and I'll put a picture up of the wires on it. All right, the 2 8.8 speakers, there's going to be one there and one there, and these are rather smaller speakers. If you want to get a little scale of the upgrade, the sun, it's hard to tell, but we got our template here, and we're just gonna kind of superimpose it a little bit right there and cut those out. Brilliant. It worked. Right, this actually comes with little packets of screws to go in your speaker, but I found with my boat's a little older, wood doesn't hold very good, so I'm going to go a nut and a bolt. Same thing. And when I redo the interior, I'll have better wood to grip to. But for now, I'm going to use nuts and bolts. I always use the nylon nuts instead of lock washers because this carpet gives it room to move. And all we have to do is put our covers on. All right. That's quite a difference. Now all we gotta do is go inside. So here's where the subwoofer and one of our 7.7s is gonna go, underneath the port side dashboard. And then one of the 7.7s is gonna go under here on the starboard side. Okay, so our subwoofer is gonna go right in here. And one of the things you have to remember is that how deep it is. So I have to measure from here to the back to see how deep it is. Because I was thinking, go 12 inch, go the big one, right? But with the depth of the 12 inch, I think it's like 12 or 13 inches. I don't have that much room between here and the back there. So that's something to consider, is not only the size around, but in the depth for where you're going to put something. Okay, so the difference in depth on these is pretty drastic. So I'm going to put these two here, then I'll end up drilling my hole for my heater head down here where I don't need that much room. But I have to stay below these two screws because there's a brace, and I can't put my subwoofer over here because the boat comes in at an angle this way. So that should clear according to my math, and that'll have plenty of room. So the 12-inch subwoofer, and you can obviously see why I didn't go for the 12 at this point, but the 12-inch subwoofer, I think this is, okay. So that's about 5 inches, 5 1/4, plus you got about 3/4 of an inch of plywood. So we're going to go back probably 4 or 5 inches. The 12-inch subwoofer, I think it's 12 to 13 inches that it shoots back. Plus it takes up a lot more real estate on the wood. Just wouldn't fit on my boat. So if this one isn't enough, we'll get another one and another amp and wire it in on the driver's side, on the starboard side. But for now, we're just going to go with the 110-inch amp, and we'll set it in that way. So those two screws on the top, they go in here and here, so I can't go above this plate. And then the one on the bottom goes down over to the right here, and so I can't go further than this. And if you measure my depth from about there to there, it's about 8 inches. So that subwoofer will fit right in here. And then right over here, where it starts to come in a little bit, there's still enough room for that smaller speaker. Okay, so this one is for the starboard side. I'm going to put the template up to check it. So if I decide to put in another 10-inch subwoofer, I know it'll fit. And so we'll trace this out and get this one done. Okay, we got our speakers mounted up. I got the radio, Spectra controller, Fusion amp to go, and all the wiring. Alright, so probably a lot of people that are upgrading have this size stereo. These have been around since, I don't know what, like the 70s, 80s, something like that, this size. It's been standard in everything. But that's not the size we're looking for. We're looking for the size of this. And according to the manufacturer, it's 7.125 inches across. And according to Garmin, our radio is 7.56. So this should be just a little bit smaller than the radio. Okay, well, somebody lied. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, this is kind of the most half-assed thing I've ever done to my boat. But it'll work for now, but it's gonna bother me, and it'll end up getting torn out later. I can guarantee it. Under here, in the back here, where I want to mount the amp. Their quick connect thingy doesn't fit up there very good. So my plan was to just take and mount the amp like that. But we're going to have to put a board in there to hold it so that we can mount it right. Alright, you can see the mounting bolts for the bracket. And got it mounted up. Now these are the wires for the old radio. It's all going to come out. I'm going to start putting in the new wires, run all new wires, and then we'll just have to hook it up. Alright, just continuing to pull out all of our old speaker wires, and this is where that 10-inch subwoofer is going to go with that 7.7. Got our amp up there, we got our radio up here, and then on this side I ordered in another 10-inch subwoofer and another 2-channel amp, and I believe that's going to mount on the back of this board right here. So the other thing I decided is all of my power wires are going to run down the starboard side, and all of my speaker wires will go down the port side. And so all my wires for my LED lights, these are all going to go down the starboard side of the boat. Alright, here's my rookie mistake of the day. I didn't realize how big 4-gauge wire was. I thought there was 2 cables in there. It's not, it's just one. So you have to have one of these for power and one for ground. So I've ordered in a ground cable. That's going to be put off for a couple days hooking the power up. But I've got, with a lot extra, I've got my LED wires run, and I got all my speaker wires run in here, and I got them all marked. So I'm going to start hooking things up. Okay, we're going to go zone 1, auxiliary, zone 1, out, red to red, I don't like those being exposed. I think we'll shrink wrap these. Give it a little extra strength. Yep, so we have the rear speakers, the front speakers, our subwoofer, our second subwoofer, and then zone 3 will be the tower speakers, and our auxiliary in will go up to the MFD. Sometimes Garmin is funny. So right here on step 1, or part 1, up here you have your power block connection, and right here it says power block port connecting to power page 4. Well, we're on page 4, so they're saying connect. They're telling you it's on page 4. It's right below it. So this is your power. You got positive, negative, and then your blue wire that goes from the radio to turn the amp on. I just think that's funny. Okay, yellow's power all the time. Red, it goes to ignition. Those two are ultimately going to be connected together. Trigger. Telemute wire. Amplifier on. Ground wire. So then these four will all be capped off. Okay, I have my 3-wire here, and I'm going to connect is the red and yellow. I'm going to connect together. Black is ground, and then the orange one goes to your headlight, or not headlight switch, but your light switch, so that when you turn your lights on, it dims your radio. Alright, we got that one all done. This wire will be hooking up to right here. I'm going to get up in there because this is going to have to be shortened. We'll get it all done. Get our power wires all done. We'll have to hook them up under the helm. We can start hooking up speakers. Alright, we're going to start at the back because this is the furthest speaker, and then we'll move over to this one. These are the two 8.8s, and we're going to start working my way to the stereo, wiring everything up. And I've got the speaker wire running this way, and the LED wire is going to go around the back so they're not running next to each other. And you can see that red, you can see the red power cable for my amp. My cable for my transducer on the sonar is in there. So, and we've still got one more to put in for the second amp. So I'm gonna reroute that because I think that much power cables running next to that sonar cable is going to cause problems. So those are going to get run down the other side of the boat and around that way so that I don't have problems. So I'll have power cables over here and speaker wires over here. Okay, we got our speakers from the back run up here. I'll turn it up, they're going to go right in here. So we'll go ahead and hook this up, and then that'll be ready to be plugged in. Remember, the one with writing is positive, and the one without writing is negative. These aren't marked anywhere for polarity. That is on the amp, which if you've already got it installed, you got to keep mindful of. So far left is negative, far right is positive, and then we have our zone in here. Okay, now we take, to make our bridge connection, we take our clip, goes just like that, and then positive and negative. This blocks off the extra RCA cables, we'll have 2 subwoofers. So, got 2 of them. Alright, we've about got the port side wired under the dash. Got all of our amp wires and all that ready. All of our power cables and that are ready. Got our 2 speakers for audio and our LEDs wired up. So we're going to move to the other side. This is part of your planning phase. There's your power, and then you have 3 channels for your LED inputs. So if you've got an 8 speaker system like I do, you're going to have to put 2 and 3 speakers in each one of these. So what I'm doing on the starboard side under the dash is I have my cables over here, and I marked them so I can keep track, and I'm going to splice in my LED wires to here and then run it back. And I'm doing 2. The subwoofers will be on 1 channel, and the little 7.7s will be on a different channel. Okay, I'm finishing up this last wire on this tie-in, and I went 2 connectors per thing for all 6 of them, and then we'll slide our heat shrink up, and we'll have our connector sitting out for our LED, and this one's for the subwoofer. Okay, so I have all my cables run and all the ends put on, all the terminal connections. So the next thing I have to install is my electric controller. And this is going to go at the back of the boat. They say don't run power wires near speaker wires because it causes interference. And I'm trying to do that the best that I can, but it's almost an impossible task for everything. So I'm going to do the best I can and just have to live with it. But why I'm installing this at the back of the boat, this board is going to be mounted through here to sit up against the side so I can mount this to it. I've run all my cables for the LED lights back here. And why I'm in here, a few years ago, I added bust power. And what this gave me was the ability to hook everything up, but not directly to my batteries. I hooked the main cable up to the battery switch. And it worked good, but then you add something else, you add downriggers, and then you put in electric refrigerated cup holders, and you put this, and it just kept expanding and expanding and expanding. So this year we're going to clean this up, we're going to get rid of all the inline fuses, and we're going to go to a much cleaner fuse block. And this is going to go on there as well. So this will be a bit of a wiring project, but I think long term it's going to make everything a lot easier and a lot better. Alright, so we got our little zone amplifier in now. There's a big difference, just so you can see a little scale, in the size of the small zone amplifier and the big 8-channel amplifier. So first thing you notice, it's not set up for great big 4-gauge wire. So what this is calling for is 14-gauge wire. And so I have that here, and that's run back to my fuse block. And this is small. The big amp takes a 40 amp circuit breaker. This only needs a 15 amp fuse, but it's a 140 watt amp, where the big amp is 150 per channel. So this has one big wiring harness. You have your 2 RCA jacks for your input, and then back here I have my RCA jacks coming from the stereo. And then you have your blue wire, which is your power wire, your signal wire. And I have a wire coming from here. And I'm just going to run both of these wires into the amp, and then it'll just feed power off of that. So right here, this will be your ground and power, and this is your remote switch. So this is where the blue wire goes from the radio into here, and then I'll just run this one into here and then over to the amp. It's not a high voltage wire, it's just a signal wire. And then on here you have just your normal power and ground. Those will get hooked up here. And then 2 speakers, left and right, and these are going to go to my 7.7 speakers that are underneath the dashboard on the port and starboard side. So it's pretty simple, but it is a lot smaller. It's going to be mounted about right here, behind here. And what I'm going to do is take these rods and run them from over here, from over here to over there, back here, like that, and then put the mount to those. I do 2 of those, and then I'll do another one on the bottom here so that I can zip tie all my power wires to it. Because I got power on the bottom running that way, and I have speakers up top and my transducer cable going that way and around the back of the boat and up high. They say to keep it all separate, but I'm doing the best I can. So on a smaller boat, you just got to do what you can. So that's where we're at so far. So we're going to start getting this wired up and see how it goes. Okay, I understand it's winter and it's going to snow, but this is kind of inconvenient. So we're almost done. I got my board mounted up. That's in there pretty solid. So all we have to do is the power cable, this one, and I gotta wait till the ground cable gets here, and then we got all of our LED spectra connections, and that's going to be mounted on this side. These bus bars are going to be used still, but they're going to be over here. They're going to have one going to my fuse block for my amp, and then we're going to install this fuse block to get rid of this wiring mess, and it'll all be a lot cleaner. So that's the plan for today. Okay, so in planning our network, we have to come down here to right here where it says this device supports a maximum of 2 amp per LED wiring harness. When planning light connections, consider the power needs of all potential load combinations to ensure that the total active load does not exceed 2 amps per LED wiring harness when in use. So then, can't find it on the online instructions, we'll go to the paper one. So what we're looking for is the LED current draw. It's 0.13. We can go to 2 amps per channel. So you got 0.13 for the 6.5s, 0.14 for the 7.7, and then 0.18 for 8.8. Then if you go to the subwoofer, a little bit more at 0.27. So as long as we can make a combination, as long as the combined total draw is under 2 amps. Okay, here's something to note. Now if you look at this figure, number 7, that's your maximum length cable on your Spectra controller. If you scroll down, right, yeah. So if you scroll down, you'll see maximum extension, maximum power cable extensions, page 5. Well, we're already on page 5. And then it says the maximum extension length that you can use. So this has to be pretty close to your batteries, actually. And the pink wire, in the diagram, it's number 6 coming off, is for an optional momentary switch. But I'm going through my, that's not an ignition switch. It says, where is it? Right up here. Oh, number 6. The pink and black wire is for an optional toggle switch and must not be connected to the ignition. So that's not an ignition wire to tell it to turn on. That's for a momentary switch if you're going to do that. Okay. Well, it kind of looks like a mess, but it's a lot better than it was. So we have our circuit breaker for our amp. We have our cables for positive and ground for the amp. And I got those all run. And we got our Garmin Spectra controller all wired up and hooked up. And I think if you were to pay somebody to do this, it'd take them like a week. There are so many little connections and stuff. I definitely understand why AV guys charge so much, because this stuff is so time consuming. But we're going to move to the front, do the final connections there, and then we can test this bad boy out. Okay, well, we got this side in. This is the port side. I got my subwoofer, my tweeter, and my little heater vent down there. And we got our power wires. I ran all the power in over here because all the speakers are coming in right up there. So to keep everything apart, power's there, speakers are there. Still got to do the cutout for the second subwoofer I decided I had to have. So that'll be a little bit of more work. But other than that, everything is done. There's my other amp. And now it's time to start plugging everything in, and we'll test this out. Before I started doing this, I thought AV guys just showed up and hooked up a few wires every day. Turns out it's not true. To get to this point, I started ordering stuff January 1st. It's now the end of January. the amount of hours that you put into this just to get to the point where you can start doing your final plugins and everything. It's a lot of work. It's something a do-it-yourselfer can definitely do, and I wouldn't discourage somebody from doing it, but it's certainly a lot more busy work than I thought it would be. This is a big system, and that's part of it. You know, we're what, 2, 4, 6, 8 speakers. The LEDs were the big thing. I'd have been here weeks ago if it wasn't for those LEDs. But you got 6 wires per speaker plus your electric controller, and it just, you know, staggering them all so that they're not really big and everything takes a lot of time, and a lot more than I thought it would. I wouldn't discourage you. I think it's cool, but it is a lot of work. So I'm going to start plugging everything in, and I'm pretty excited. Okay, so we'll start plugging everything in. This is my tower speakers. This is my 8.8s at the back. And the 7.7s at the front are run through the amp, the small amp. And we got our 2 subwoofers. And last but not least, we have our power and our activation wire there. I'm going to stick all those up. So we have, these are coming from the radio. We have our 1 subwoofer. There's only one place you can plug it in. Other subwoofer. And those go out there. So we have our speaker wires. Oh wait, that's not a subwoofer over there. There's a subwoofer over here. Red. Right, one last speaker. Red. Right, and then all those wires are going to have to be tucked up and secured back there. I don't know how much of that was actually recorded. Okay, I was just going to do this live and then just edit it, but I've had to go through this a couple of times. It's not as intuitive as you'd think. At least it wasn't for me, but I'm old. So gonna kind of go through all the little steps to get hooked up here. So we'll go ahead and get her going. So turn it with no power. Okay, now we have power. takes, once it hits this screen, like 20-30 seconds before it'll give you your other screen. So now we're to FM, so we want to hook up our Bluetooth. So you hit the little arrow, you hit down there. Wait, go back. First thing you want to do is go here. Nope. Settings. And your device name. And you want to hit custom name. I named this my jet boat because it's in my jet boat, but that makes it easier to find on your phone. Then you're going to want to connect a Bluetooth device. So you hit boat, connections, make your boat discoverable, and then go into your device. I'm going to hook this up to my iPad. And on my iPad, it says jet boat right there. So click on jet boat. And now, where are we? Right there, jet boat connected. So then we can go in. It says there's no copyright to this, but we'll go ahead and fire it up. Still see good. Okay, so now we have music, and so what you want to do is go into your settings, then settings, and then go down to zone, and you can click on it and click there. You can put custom name, and you can name it whatever you want. These are my 8.8 speakers at the stern of the boat. And then back one more time, I have my 8.8 wake tower speakers and my 7.7 at the helm. And so you can name them whatever you have in your boat. And then click up there and it'll bring up the volume. So you can do all of your volume. Or you can bring them all up. And then when you go up to all, going to bring the volume up on everything. So let's say you're out boating and you want your wake tower to get heavier. So crank that up. Go up to all. And it's going to move that one faster. So as you go up and down, it's going to keep the same time behind us. So you can set it up so in the boat it's a little bit quieter, but your skier or people on tubes, whatever, theirs is going to get real loud so they can hear it better. Okay, so that gets us to there. And I want to do the Apple AirPlay. Now you'll have to have somebody that knows more about radios explain this than me, but apparently when you go through your Bluetooth, it compresses your music, and so you get a better sound if you go through Apple AirPlay. Okay, so to do the Apple AirPlay, you hit settings, go to settings, Scroll down to network, and you click on Wi-Fi access point, and then you scroll down and you get your SSID and password. And on your iPad, turn on Wi-Fi, and there's your network. Go back there. Okay. It says no internet connection, but that's not what we're looking for. It says not connected. So say we're going to play us this music here. And you go, click on that, you hit the little thing, AirPlay and Bluetooth devices. You go to that. Down here, now we have our AirPlay, and it's playing on AirPlay instead of on Bluetooth. And then you still have all your stuff. So let's move over to the helm and check this out on the chart plotter, and we'll start working on lights. All right, so now we're over to the sonar. First thing we're going to do is go into options and make sure we're at transmit off so we don't burn up our transducer. And then we'll hit home, vessel, that'll bring this up. And so we have our media, and so we have all of our controls for the stereo on here. And so we're on all zones right now. You can turn the music up. Back down. This is some no copyright music, so hopefully YouTube doesn't whack me on this. Then go home and go over to lighting, and let's see, go to options, go to installation, go to lights. When you first start this, it's going to have some weird names over here. You can go into rename and name it anything you want. I've already done that. So my subwoofers and my 8.8s are on one section. My small 7.7s are on one, and my tower is on another one. So that's how I hooked those up. Then go back. Oh wait, go lights. If you have trouble figuring out which one's which, if you hit identify, now my subwoofers and my 8.8 should be flashing. And if you look down here, they're flashing. And if I turn those off, I can go to the 7.7 speakers, hit identify, and now those ones are flashing. So that way you can find which one you have hooked up to what circuits. And then you just name them whatever you want, and you're done. And then, we need to go to installation, lights, light output. If you got the new lights, it should be CGRBW. So I messed this up the first time. Single channel is if it's just one light, and these are, you know, how much control you have over them. And go back, so you can set up different things so that they're all purple, pink. They have different let's see, go back, can go, done. Okay, close, get out of there. So you go to your lights, and then you pick your tower. Turn it back on, and you hit the pencil, and you go effect, and there's all sorts of different effects. Or you can go color and pick which color you want. Okay, so we've got all of our lights on. That's what this switch does, on and off. And so we hit options, and we hit installation and lights, and we want to be on CRGBW. Then go back and can select your audio zones. So you hit change and you can identify each audio zones. Then you have them all set up. So my subwoofers are now set up with, the light subwoofers are now set up with my 8.8 and my subwoofer there. Then my 7.7s are now set up with my 7.7s. My tower speakers are now set up with my wake tower lights. So you go through. So now everything's set up. So you go through, you need to associate an audio zone with each one of these. And then you go back, and you go hit the little pencil and you hit audio sync, and then you have your, can set up a color for everything you want to do. And then you go back, and then you hit audio sync, close, and one more time for our subwoofers, audio sync, back, and we'll hit a new one, type in BLUE, done. And now fire up a little music, so we can hit home, media, hit play. And now our lights are flashing with our music. So we only have one more thing left to do. All right. Okay. So I got my video playing on my MFD. Just go in and hit video. Bang, there it is, right? Problem is, no audio. So if I come out of here, come over here to media, hit source, I hit auxiliary 2, nothing. And I had it hooked up to auxiliary 1, but when I wasn't getting any audio, I hooked it up to auxiliary 2. That didn't work. So I hooked up my other MFD, my 10-inch, or my 12-inch one, because this is the 10-inch. The 12-inch goes to the back, so I hooked up the bigger one here. Still no sound. And went back and forth, and nothing. So I took the DVD player in, hooked it up to the TV. It's working. So I finally concluded that it had to be a setting. So when you're in your video, okay, you hit close, hit options, and it brings up this setting button, and you go to system and hit sound and display, audio setup, audio output on, and I don't know if you can close. Now we have the audio for our video on our MFD. So that is how that works, and I don't want to get copyright hit.
We got ourselves.
So that's how it is. But then we can go back to our media, go back to the boat, and we're back to our copyright-free music. And we're back. So that's the whole system. It wasn't easy, but it wasn't remarkably difficult either. Garmin tech support was invaluable on this. They are very understanding, and they helped me out do a lot of it. So I'd say if you're at all handy at all, this shouldn't be a very big project for you. I did listen. I was a little concerned because one of the videos I watched, a guy said he would run his radio for about 30 minutes and it would kill his battery. And I don't know what kind of battery he has. I have 2 small marine batteries, and I haven't charged them in a while, but I've probably got 6 or 7 hours on this. But when I'm normally running, I have 2 great big marine batteries for when I'm fishing, so that I can run my electric cup holders and all of that. And so I'll see how long my batteries last that way. But typically, if I'm running my trolling motor and my sonar and my refrigerated cup holders and all of that, I can get 2 or 3 days out of my 2 batteries. So I don't know if I'm going to have to charge every night using the radio, what that'll be, but I think this is a great system. You can't, duplicate the audio over a YouTube video, but it is amazing night and day difference between what I had before. That was a $150 radio, and that included the speakers, and I spent more than that on the wires and cables for this. So I'm excited, and that's going to end this video.